remember the summer of 1975? Well, the other day I heard a record that was a big hit that summer, and it brought back a memory from that year to me. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I heard the Stylistics I Can't Give You Anything But My Love on the radio, and I just checked and it was actually released in the UK in July of 1975. And it took me back to the lakeside holiday camp at Burnham-on-Sea, where we had an arcade and a bingo. This particular year though, we also had a cafe that is at the entrance of the holiday camp. It wasn't a large cafe, but I suppose it catered to 30 to 40 people. It was just as you'd imagine a cafe to be in the 1970s. It was L-shaped, and the main part of the room had about 10 Guinness tables topped by a horrible beige coloured Formica, and it had those horrible plastic orange seats. The narrow part had the square equivalent to the tables in the main part of the room and the same seats. I can remember Mum having the radio on the counter playing Radio 1 so that the charts of the day were heard by the customers as they bought their steak and kidney pies and pasties and chips and sausage, egg and chips and all that sort of thing. Now, if you'd like to leave a comment down below, that would be great. And it'd also be great if you could hit that button too. Ah yes, the food of the 70s, dull and boring. The most cosmopolitan thing we'd heard of back then was Vesta curry. And we didn't sell those, but the best thing in the cafe for me was lime milkshakes. Pure delight. Whenever I could get out of the arcade, I'd be down the cafe for a lime milkshake. And it wasn't the thick ones we have today. Oh no, back then they were runny, thin milkshakes. But I loved them. Looking back, everything was so much simpler back then. Certainly food-wise in the cafe. Adults drank a mug of tea. I think Mum might have sold Maxwell House, but it wasn't a big seller with our Brummie and Bristolian holiday makers. And for the Birmingham holiday makers, we had to use the devil's milk. Sterilised. It came in a tall, thin bottle with a lid that used to be like those on a beer bottle. And it was nice, god-awful tasting stuff. But they loved it, so Mum stocked it as well. Howard, who ran the shop in the holiday camp, used to stock it, and he said 90% of the milk that he sold was sterilised. In fact, I have this vivid memory of being in the shop first thing in the morning and thinking to myself, do all the Brummies buy the same stuff? Because day after day I used to hear them asking for 20 Park Drive and a pint of Stera, please. Always the same two things to start the day off. I asked Howard once, what were his two biggest sellers in the shop? And you guessed it, it was those two items. Happy days. And hearing that song this morning just took me right back there once again. And if you click up there, I'll tell you how another song rekindled more memories from 50 years ago.